Hey yo, salute to the people. It's the social forecast. Today is Sunday, October 27th. It's about 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And I hope you all did something today to further your goals and to help you realize your dreams. Let's get into it. So, about a week ago, a story broke about an altercation that happened between a school resource officer and an 11-year-old female student. And on the surface, this was just another example of police officers who over-abuse their authority, overstep their bounds, escalate situations rather than relying on their training, which is supposed to be to help de-escalate situations. And initially, I thought about passing this story up, and that's why I didn't report on it several days ago. And then I started thinking about it. The more the story grew and the more I really started to contemplate the story and hear certain talk shows and other platforms speak on it. And I started looking at this story from the perspective of a parent and as a father. And I always ask myself when these stories come up, stories like police officers engaging in police brutality, infringing on people's civil rights and things of that nature, would I ever be the type of individual who would strongly consider assaulting a police officer? And this story would be it for me as a father. And I have two girls and a son. And both of my girls not too far off from the age of this young lady, this 11-year-old student. And when I watch the video, when I hear the audio, and I see everything that happens, and I watch the whole situation transpire, if I was that girl's father, and if I happened to stumble upon that incident, I 100% believe I would have assaulted that police officer. And there's a few reasons why. For one, it's bad enough for a police officer to act like that with anyone, whether it be a child, an adult, whatever. But some of the reports that I'm hearing on this story, which makes it not offensive, but that much more offensive, is that this 11-year-old girl was also a special needs student. Now, neither here nor there if she was or she wasn't. The shit never should have happened. But the fact that the reports I'm hearing that she was, and when you listen to the audio and watch the video, and you can hear the staff in the background asking the police officer to kind of stand down, saying that this girl is not a threat. You don't need to be that physical with her. And this officer is clearly ignoring what they're saying. And he's all on this girl, twisting her arm. He's not allowing her to get up. She's begging for him to let her get up. He's telling her, don't resist, comply with what I'm commanding you to do. And she's saying, I'm trying to, but you're fucking on me. I can't get up. And this goes on for a little while. So there's a couple things, too, I want to speak on and clear up with this story. So the news reported that this police officer resigned. In the press conference, this Farmington, New Mexico police department announced that this officer was no longer under their employ. And the outrage of a lot of people was, well, why wasn't this police officer fired immediately? And that would be the understandable sentiment of anyone who would see this video. Even if you don't see the video and you just listen to the audio, it's still bad enough. The problem is the way that the policies and the unions are structured with police officers. It's very difficult to fire a police officer when situations like this happen. At least not as quickly as the public would like to see these police officers fired. This police officer was allowed to resign, or I would say probably under the advice of counsel or their union rep, was probably instructed to resign, because by this police officer resigning, they stand a better chance of maybe going to a different department, getting hired. You would think with the publicity around this incident that wouldn't be likely or wouldn't be possible, but it happens all the time, unfortunately. When you're fired as a police officer, there's a certain record that police departments check when police officers apply for a job. And when you're fired and the reasons behind why you were fired goes into your file, it makes it very difficult, if not nearly impossible, to be hired by another department as a police officer. But when you resign, even if ahead of a situation that already happened, even if this police officer ends up being charged, which doesn't seem like this police officer is going to be, when you resign, that incident never really goes on your file because you resigned. And I think that's a loophole that quite a few police officers have been able to exploit, and that's really why I'm covering this story on my platform. Not that it doesn't merit being covered, because it does, but I think as these stories continue to come out and these things continue to happen, I think we have to kind of pinpoint and target in on different things to try and close these loopholes and really get a hold of the system and try to find legal ways to force new laws and new policies to be put into place that will help to further weed out these bad police officers, these cops who shouldn't be cops. Because in my opinion, if you feel the need to strong arm an 11-year-old girl who wasn't being violent, was just being dismissive like most 11-year-old girls are, not listening to the instructions of the principal, what have you. But if you feel the need to strong arm an 11-year-old student, female student at that, who doesn't have a weapon, who's not being violent, who's not outwardly showing that she's being non-compliant, then you don't deserve to be a police officer. Clearly, you shouldn't have a badge, you shouldn't have a gun, you should not have the authority or the power to arrest anybody. And it doesn't look like I said, this police officer is going to be charged. The department in the press conference is saying that there was an over application of force with this police officer, but that it's almost like they're spinning it as if it was a poor judgment call, but nothing really illegal happened. My thing, though, is if you would strong arm an 11-year-old female student, what would you do to an adult? You would probably want to pull out your gun and shoot them. And no police officer, no individual who is that caliber of person, like I said, should have a gun, a badge, or either or. This person shouldn't even, in my opinion, be a security guard, should be nowhere near students or a school. And it's unfortunate that nothing's probably going to happen to this police officer, but I'm going to put the link to this video so that y'all can all see it. I'm going to put the link in the description. Check it out. Let me know what y'all think. So my biggest point in this vlog, right, is there's certain laws, policies, what have you, that when people don't vote on the local level, when these different types of legislation are put into place, when you don't vote on the local level and you don't pay close attention to your local sheriffs, local judges, local councilmen and women, these are the things that pass through. These loopholes are the things that are allowed to take hold. It's not just the national level. And I say this, kind of as we get closer and closer to the next national election. National elections are important, midterm elections are important, but the foundation of any national election is the local election, because if you stop these poor policymakers on the local level, they never get to the national stage. They never get to the point where we're trying to decide of the lesser of whatever evils we have in front of us in the way of candidates. It's really important that people of all ages, if you're of age and legally able to vote, start paying more attention to your local elections. Start paying more attention to who holds those local offices, because the majority of the time, a lot of these police chiefs, commissioners, sheriffs, judges on the local level, a lot of them are elected, and a lot of people don't realize that. And you can weed out a lot of these things by being a voice and being active in your community and voting every time any of these local elections come up. Because if you were to go and read the fine print, so to speak, you would see a lot of the proposals for these laws, legislations, rules, whatever. You would see them in these local elections, and that's how they're allowed to sneak through a lot of the time. So that's my biggest point for the story. Check out this video. I think it's crazy appalling as a parent myself. If I were to ever see this happening to one of my children, I don't care what kind of badge you have, I don't care how many guns you have, I would most likely be assaulting a police officer in that sense, and I wouldn't give a shit about it, and I would gladly take whatever time they would give me, because no child should ever have to go through that, and I can only imagine what the parents of this child is going through. But anyway, that's all I stopped through to give my 2 cents on. Like, comment, and subscribe. I don't pretend to know everything. I just know what I know. It's a social forecast. Peace and love.